Nick, I want to get your thoughts on the special election yesterday. Republican nominee Matt Van Epps, he defeated Democratic rival Afton Bain in the high-stakes special election in Tennessee. This, of course, was a must-win for Republicans, but can you take us through the results? What do you make of them?
Yeah, so this is a district in Tennessee that President Trump won by 22 points, obviously a safely Republican district. And Matt Van Epps won it, but by a significantly closer margin than the president won it. And, there are going to be folks on both sides that are going to look at those results and they're going to be concerned. And, I'm a little bit nervous, but not any more so than I was after the elections in November. Special elections, particularly ones in early December, they're weird, they're low turnout affairs. And what we've seen time and time again is that the Democrats are way more energized right now than the Republicans are. And when a very small fraction of the electorate's voting, even in a seat that's as conservative as the one in Tennessee, it's not surprising that the Democrats are going to outperform expectations. But it really does, give us the playbook for what we need to do next year, which is to execute an agenda that works for the American people and that energizes those folks that aren't always engaged politically, but voted for President Trump, that gets them off the couch to vote for Republican nominees.
And Esther, I want to get your thoughts on Afton Bain, who of course lost the special election, but looking at her, it's being argued that she's really the median Democrat here. She's of course a lunatic, radical progressive, and they're the people that the Democrats continue to run. She was defund the police. She said she even hated Tennessee. On another point, I was listening to Jesse Waters yesterday, and he was running through all the hoaxes that the Democrats have been running this year. We had the Maryland dad hoax, the Iranian nuclear mountain hoax, the illegals don't get free healthcare hoax, the MAGA killed Charlie Kirk hoax, and that Elon Musk is stealing our social security hoax, and the Antifa isn't real hoax. I mean, this is what their messaging has been like this year, and then they're putting up candidates like Afton Bain. Are they going to continue to do that?
I think, unfortunately, for the Republicans, I think as crazy as candidates like Afton Bain, who has the misfortune of having a name that sounds like a venereal disease, but we can't really talk very much because in Britain we had a politician called Ed Balls. So these things happen. I think they are learning in the sense that they're fielding the most ridiculous candidates, but they're learning about what actually resonates. So in a district where, Mr. Green won by 20 points, Donald Trump won by 22 points, you really should question why in just, a little over a year, the new Republican candidate only won by 9 points against a candidate who is, for all intents and purposes, fits better in New York and in coastal cities than in a very deep red district like in Tennessee. So what is happening here is that the Democrats are realizing that economic populism, especially harping on about the cost of living, is what's actually resonating with people. And the Republicans have to be very careful because, as Bill Clinton said, it's the economy, stupid. If people don't feel like their money is going further or feel like the economy is in safe hands like Donald Trump promised, you are going to see people looking towards really unsavory candidates like Afton Bain, because outside of the whole culture war stuff, which I think the Democrats know that they've decisively lost and that they have to kind of move away from that and talk about issues that directly affect people's lives, like the money in their pockets and the economy and jobs and all of that, then you start to see a shift, because Afton Bain, for all intents and purposes, should not have been able to have come within the sort of close range that she did with Van Epps. But the fact that she did that shows that there are some lessons that need to be learned by the Republicans and fast, because if not, they're going to lose their already fragile majority in the House, and Trump's agenda will effectively be neutralized from that point onwards, and we cannot see that happening because who knows what untold damage basically halting his agenda would do, especially at the next presidential election.
Absolutely. It's an important point. Look, it's been revealed that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro has unleashed on Kamala Harris. He sat down for an interview where he really unleashed about what Kamala Harris wrote about him in her book. He said that it was utter BS. This was in an interview with The Atlantic. And Josh Shapiro denied what Harris alleged in her book, 107 Days, which included discussions of Shapiro and others that she vetted to be her running mate. And then she landed with Tim Walz, which was an absolute disaster. But Josh Shapiro said, I can tell you that her accounts are just blatant lies. Nick, this book, 107 Days, it just keeps infuriating the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris continues on her self-immolation tour here. This is someone who was, uniquely unqualified to run for president, got in there under the unique circumstances of, President Biden dropping out of the race. And it goes to show just how lucky we are to have dodged this bullet as a country, because clearly this is someone who doesn't have the temperament to lead the country going forward. And I think really what this shows and is endemic of is the fact that the Democrats are still, in search of a leader for their party here. And, Kamala Harris is trying to continue to establish herself and to distance herself from the failure that was her presidential campaign. But my goodness, making every other up and coming Democrat angry and trying to throw folks like Josh Shapiro under the bus, who have a much better reputation than she does right now. I don't know that that's the way to do it.
Esther, it's been a big year. I want to get your thoughts. Looking back at 2025, we've covered some pretty crazy media meltdowns here on Power Hour. But looking back at 2025, the year that's been, what would you say was the craziest moment?
I would say Rachel Zegler and her inability to sue her jaw shut, especially with hundreds of millions of dollars and people's jobs on the line. I think that kind of spectacular narcissism and an ego the size of Kansas is really a sight to behold. I mean, in a parallel universe where we actually cared what a 23-year-old girl thought about anything to do with Trump or climate change or Gaza, I think she would have done quite well. But unfortunately, most people happen to live in reality, and they know that at 23, they could hardly boil pasta. So probably listening to the opinions of a girl who's too selfish and narcissistic to keep her mouth shut for the sake of not just the film that she's promoting, which a lot of people invested a lot of money in, but for the sake of her co-stars and all the people behind the scenes in production who had a lot riding on it. It's quite spectacular, and I think it really deserves some sort of Hall of Fame moment, because you don't really see that very often.
Let's just take a listen to her.
No longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Yeah, the Snow White absolutely slammed over this, just so woke, such a disaster. Nick, are you able to top that? What was your craziest kind of media meltdown?
I think back to the meltdown over Jimmy Kimmel and his brief suspension from the Late Show. He made some inaccurate comments after the shooting of Charlie Kirk, but the breathless mainstream media and Hollywood freakout was proclaiming, an end to free speech. And, as an example of, President Trump's, fascist takeover of America. But it's a tough look for the liberal resistance movement when, Trump, the president of the United States, arguably the most powerful person in the world, can't even keep a comedian he likes off the air for a little bit more than a week. Just an excellent example of the rhetoric of the left not matching up to the reality of the moment.
Let's just take a listen to Jimmy Kimmel.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way.
Nick, he is such a liar. I mean, it's so infuriating just listening to him. And it's actually come out today that new polling shows only 24% of voters actually know that Charlie Kirk's alleged killer was a radical leftist. And it's because of people like Jimmy Kimmel that were deliberately lying, saying that it was a MAGA person. I mean, it was just absurd. And then the fake tears and refusing to apologise to Charlie Kirk's family was just awful. Esther, while we're looking back at the year that was, winner or loser? Do you have any winner or loser for the year?
I would say definitely the winner is the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein, the most infamous sexual offender the world has ever known, because he managed to stay in the headlines longer being dead than when he was alive and abusing scores of women. And he was a headache to not only the Republicans, but I suspect the Democrats, if the Democrats would decide to actually be fair-handed about this and acknowledge that there were quite a few powerful men within their own ranks that were sashaying on Epstein Island. So yeah, that's definitely a winner, I would say.
And Nick, what about you? Winner or loser?
I think a big loser this year has been Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Senate Democrats. He came into the year trying to balance the anger of his progressive base with the job of actually legislating and leading the country. And for years and years, this is someone who's insisted that shutting down the government is irresponsible. But as soon as he felt the heat from his liberal base, he led Democrats into the longest shutdown in history, while simultaneously refusing and infuriating liberals in his own state by refusing to endorse progressive darling Zohran Mamdani. In the end, he looked incredibly foolish. The shutdown went on for 42 days, and Democrats within his own party broke from his leadership and voted with Republicans to reopen the government. So not only did he go through the heartburn of shutting down the government, he got nothing in return and really had egg on his face coming out of that process. And I'm sure he's feeling the heat from within his own party as they enter what is going to be a really difficult cycle for Democrats to pick up seats in the Senate.